Alrighty, so we are doing chapter 9. Yeah, chapter 9. Because human greatness is the next chapter. Yep, alright, so here we go. Chapter 9. Human greatness. The capital El Arca received us, but as things were going so far, it was clearly not going to be a pleasure trip. At least not at the beginning. Butler ordered us to follow him, and after saying goodbye to the other officers, we immersed ourselves in this immense luminous and modern city that my mind, so lacking in imagination, would never have imagined. We tried not to lose sight of the captain, who never looked back, but as his and sorry guys, hold on. Back butt. I'm having such a hard time. We tried not to lose sight of the captain, who never looked back, but as is his custom as a leader, he expected his faithful companions to follow him. Without losing track, it was complex to do so, because we were enraptured by the environment. At every step we took, the whole group was really surprised. People filled the public spaces, restaurants and vehicles seemed to always collide, but never did. Their maneuvers were almost perfect. Their maneuvers were almost perfect. Because there's like a little comma there. So. In the sky, big transparent spheres were walking from one side to another. Most of them were occupied by one person, but in some occasions, even two were seen driven those strange balloons that floated and crossed the skies. Even when the news was fast spreading in every part of the Republic, the citizens of El Arca were happily strolling around, as if no war had broken out just a few miles away. Separating from the captain would have left us in big trouble. As the language they used in the capital was not English nor any language I could decipher, another question was already adding to my mind. Would this be a native language? Perhaps the oldest one anyone could have heard from an earlier humanity? And if so, where did it come from? I sank into my thoughts as I automatically followed the captain. The land of the Anakim, imagining what such a place might be like. A part of me even doubted its existence. It was unbelievable to even imagine the possibility of seeing giants. Giants, I asked myself, an inner voice. It was even strange to repeat it in my own mind. I think the whole group was in the same situation. We approached a place that appeared to be a large harbor. Many boats were resting. Butler asked us to wait for him while he went over to talk to the officers there. We took the opportunity to talk to each other. We were all living in a dream that at times turned into a nightmare. From the Eden that could be seen from the heights of the great forest, full of color, flowers of the deadly and bloody roars of these apparently famous custodians, of which we had barely heard until now, and perhaps I would have liked to never know. With the experience of a past war and battling at sea that I had under my belt, I could notice that the group was very united and with a lot of strength. I guess that the uncertainty and this knowledge with which we had collided unintentionally transmuted an immersed desire that arose from within us to want to know more and more. We wanted as much information as possible to unravel this unknown human history in the lands where we were born. We also began to doubt about the recent attack. Was it our fault for escaping from the known lands? Was this our punishment? Those were great walls of ice, perhaps artificial. There, were the custodians perhaps other humans, or were they a race we did not know? Oh, I see. Giants. New races. Giants, new races, new lands, and artificial walls. We began to dig so deep that our theories already bordered on the ridiculousness. But everything was already beginning to be unknown then nothing became logic either. Our world was changing every second, and it had done it forever, like a divine sentence. Butler approached us and told us that we would take the boat over there, pointing with his hand. It was the boat that stood out the most, similar to the one that approached us as soon as we crossed the walls. Everything was ready to leave for the Akeem lands, but first, according to Butler, we would have an obligatory stopover in the captain's lands. We were able to visit every corner of the luxurious and modern ship. Everything was from a different and distant era to the one known to us. Difficult to understand. In case it was not already enough to have noticed that technology was advanced in light years. They explained to me that we could practically say that these ships handled themselves. Besides that, we could hardly hear the outside. They were very silent, fast, and we could hardly notice the movement in the water. Anyway, the sea was calm, and suddenly this made me realize that the waves were always in this state. Their calmest and most neutral form in these lands, at least in our experience in our trip. Then that led to another question that added to the immense list that I already had to my credit. Did these waters have a totally different way of behaving compared to ours? I was sure of one thing, and that was that the moon shone at least 3 times brighter. The color of the sun was totally different from the known. And there was also another sphere of bluish-black color, which I noticed when the iron blues battled overhead, and first I imagined that it was part of some technology. I did not know, but it was still there, static, in a part of the firmament. After a few minutes of sailing at truly extraordinary speed for the whole group, the captain ordered us to prepare to descend. Although the situation was tense and certain precautions were taken during the short trip, we breathed a different air as we arrived at this island that had a small and humble port. Not so different from those we knew in America, and in the distant many low houses of shiny white color that peeked out from among the green hills. Butler left his new belongings on the floor, and suddenly a little girl who seemed to be no more than 6 years old ran into his arms. Behind him, a woman with a pale face smiled as she saw the captain arrive to port. After a deep embrace, she introduced us. It was his wife and daughter who welcomed us. Butler, with a cheerful tone, confirmed that we all thought welcomed to my land comrades. Butler, with a cheerful tone, confirmed what we all thought. Welcome to my land, comrade. This is my family, and I hope you are comfortable here as long as we can stay. We settled in some houses adjoining. The captain's house, who also invited us to enter and gave us all the comforts. We did not think we would be there long because of the urgency required by the situation in which we were. But Butler said later it was just over a year since he was at home, and he was not going to waste any time to stay as long as he could with his family. We stayed 2 nights on that simple but beautiful island, and during this period I was able to talk to the captain about several points that kept nagging at the back of my mind that I needed to internalize. I was looking for answers over and over again. My mind would not slow down for a second. Butler knew this and anticipated it as he always did. He was a man who walked several steps ahead of us in every direction and thought. Their minds are somehow modified to put it in a way you can understand me. I tried to follow him with my eyes in an act of inner emptiness, only waiting for him to develop that interesting and disturbing point. Butler then went on to say the ultimate humanity is depending on your mind in a totally noxious extreme. You do not detach yourself almost at any time with expectation. You imagine what exists, and that is based on your thoughts. Your imagination created by experiences and thought through others, who also feedback on others' thoughts, creating an immense network where each one identifies himself according to where he was born, his status quo or physical condition, but this only does nothing but move away from the true human essence. We, those who have blood of ancestral humanity, do not have that permanent attack of the mind with infinite thoughts, mostly degrading, and that also mostly are interventions of the situation that no longer exist or that will never happen. Humanity in each reset was approaching what the custodians want from us, because they were modifying both their bodies and minds as the environment. The lands you left behind is an isolated world, unreal, where evil stands out. Wars abound, and degrading become almost unbearable. But those humans, your brothers and mine too, although from another era, they are not what their minds think every day. That is why history is hidden. Because if humanity greatness were known, then nothing could stop us in our growth, because no one could live kneeling if they knew who is trying them with the invisible leash there in that world inside the ice walls. I had nothing to say. I remained silent, and I kept my words to myself so as not to cry with impotence. I had never heard that captain be so clear. His gaze was lost in the horizon. I kept that night as one of the many unforgettable nights I would have in these glorious and revealing lands. I asked some other important questions that you will soon understand from the story of what will happen next. From what will happen next. The next morning,